Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Girl Listen, the mini podcast. I'm your host, KJ, and thank you so much for being here with me. Today, I want to talk a little about imposter syndrome. As a young black woman, I have had many times where I felt like I wasn't as capable, I didn't belong in these spaces. It almost felt fraudulent, to say the least. And it didn't help that there's so much pressure from society. There are so many microaggressions that you experience. And then there's also just the lack of representation in certain spaces that really made me feel like, girl, what is going on? How did you get here? And how are you about to fake it until you make it, right? And for me, I feel like that imposter syndrome had many layers. And one of them being, again, the lack of representation, whether that be people that look like me or whether that just be people in my age range. Like there were just so many different layers. And it really made me question a lot about myself, about my different identities, and how I really ended up in some of these spaces. I can say the first time I actually felt imposter syndrome, I remember it so vividly, was one of my first years as a head track and field coach. I absolutely enjoyed coaching. I loved it. I was having a great time, loved my athletes. And it wasn't until we went to a meet. It was myself and one of my assistant coaches. We're both black women, we're both young. We walk up to the coaches meeting, and this group is older white men. We are the only women there, and we're the youngest people there. So we walk up dressed in our polos, but also dressed like track coaches, if that makes sense. And we had one of the coaches look at us and say, "Oh, this is the coaches meeting. Where's your coach?" And we looked at each other, and then we looked back at him and we were like, we are the coaches. And we sat there, we listened to the coaches meeting, we went back to our athletes, of course we talked to each other about it, like, girl, did that really just happen? Like, he really tried to play us. But, we took it with a grain of salt. At the end of the day, we were there for the sole purpose of our athletes being able to compete and do their best. And so that's what we were focused on. So as the meet progresses, everyone is competing. Our athletes are doing well. All the athletes are doing well, to be honest. That same coach came up to talk to us as we were judging the 4x1 and was like, wow, your kids are really good. Y'all are doing a great job over there. And just to see how his attitude changed from thinking that my assistant coach and I were kids, essentially, because we're coaching high school, to now appreciating the work that we are doing with our athletes was really interesting. Because at one point, I will say, even though I brushed it off, I still thought about it like, wow, like, am I too young to be doing this? And, one of the only women, the only other woman in the space being one of coaching with me, like, is this really what this is going to be like? But I knew it was something that I loved, and I knew it was something that I had a real gift for. And I also was not about to let my athletes down. Our motto was always to tell them it's all mental. Whatever you tell yourself you can do, you can do. And so I had to take that advice for myself. Okay, I told myself I could do this. I believe in me. I believe in my athletes. So we're not going to give up on them. We're not going to give up on ourselves. We're going to keep going. And that was the first time I experienced imposter syndrome. But I also sat back and said, wait, no, I do belong in this space. And from that moment, anytime I would feel myself questioning, how did I get here? I would remember, like, no, you belong here. There's a reason you're here. And everybody who is questioning it will see. Sooner or later, somebody's going to recognize, right? And it took a while for me to really get to a place where I was comfortable enough to not even think, how did I get here? I had to realize that for all of the spaces that I have occupied, that I am occupying, there's a reason that I am in that space. Somebody believed in me enough to say, you know what, let's give her a shot. She can do this. Let's try it out. And so if someone else could see that in me, why could I not see that in myself? I think for me, originally it goes back to not having that representation. And I feel like it's really important, especially when you're in either a professional space or just a space you've never been in before. So, whether it be a professional space or corporate space, a creative space, to have a mentor or to have people that you look to for advice that you can talk to have people that you can study who share some of those same identities that you share, because it can be scary going into a space that you've never been in before and also trying to navigate that on your own. And it's like, okay, not only do I not know what I'm doing yet, I'm also a little confused about how I got here. I've never seen anybody do this before. Again, how do I fake it till I make it? And so being able to have that mentor or have those people that you can study is going to be really helpful, because it makes it just a little bit easier when you can see that someone has successfully done what you are trying to do. It makes it a little bit easier. I also try to make sure that I can be that person for someone else. So if I'm in a space that someone is aspiring to be in, that I am open and willing to helping the next person, because I know what it felt like to be in their shoes. I know what it feels like to be questioning myself of how I got here and how I'm going to do this, to be wondering how I'm going to build up my confidence to do this thing that I have been selected to do. And so I want to make sure that I am available and open and willing to help. Another thing that really helped me with imposter syndrome is just speaking more positively to myself about the things that I do. Because I will say I'm a person who thinks big, I dream big. I'm a very much go big or go home type of person. And I talked a little bit about it in my episode about anxiety as well. I also get anxious about things and I get overwhelmed and I get in my head. And so I had to start speaking more positively to myself to help relieve some of that overwhelming feeling and some of that anxiety and some of that uncertainty of if I belong in a space. I had to start letting myself know, like, girl, you got this. Girl, you can do this. And anything that you don't know, you can learn. You've been learning your entire life. You had to learn at all these different stages. So what's stopping you from learning now? So I really had to focus on the positive side of things instead of the side that was making me anxious, the side that was making me overwhelmed and was making me question myself and essentially, knocking my confidence down. I realized that if I'm going to be that girl, I have to think that I'm that girl, but I also have to commit to it. So just making sure, like, I know I earned this. I earned this. Whatever it is, I earned it. I am supposed to be here. There are so many things that have just happened, even over the last couple of years in life, in the world. And I'm just like, okay, if that can happen, I can do absolutely anything I put my mind to. I just have to believe it and I have to figure out a way to do it. They try to say that comparison is the thief of joy. And while I do agree to an extent, I feel like in that same sense, looking at someone else's life, looking at someone else's accomplishments, looking at the things that someone else has done doesn't always have to steal your joy. Because while sometimes we look at it as like, well, dang, if that can happen for them, why isn't it happening for me? Or, wow, their content took off so fast. Why isn't it mine? And instead of thinking like that, it's more so looking at the approach of, okay, if this can happen for this person, it can happen for me. I just need to figure out what work I need to put in, how hard I need to work, what are the different things that I need to do in order to get myself to this level. I see that this person accomplished it. So it can be accomplished, essentially. Like, it can happen. And so really being able to look at things from a different perspective and understanding that you can't allow yourself to sit too long in the negative. You really want to speak to yourself more positively. Think those positive thoughts. Have those affirmations, and then start really making plans on how you are going to accomplish this goal that you have set for yourself. And to go back to the mentors and the people that you like to study, also just making sure that you're surrounding yourself with a community of people who support you. And I don't mean that false support. I don't mean the only positive support. I mean the people who support you, the ones that are going to hold you accountable. Like, okay, you said you were going to start this podcast, girl. When is that first episode coming out? Those who are going to tell you, okay, yes, you're doing a good job and I'm proud of you. Those who are going to give you some ideas and some suggestions if things aren't going the way that maybe you feel like they should be going, or if they notice something that maybe you didn't notice and they're like, hey, I noticed this, maybe you might want to alter that or fix this. And so really being able to build yourself with a community of people who genuinely support you and who are going to be proud of you, but who are also going to push you and hold you accountable is going to be really important. Because when you have that support and when you have those people in your life to keep you grounded, but to also lift you up, it really does help with you understanding and believing that you belong in the spaces that you're occupying. And also being able to celebrate yourself. Like, you know what? Yeah, I did this. Did I have any clue that this was going to happen in the beginning? Absolutely not. Did I know this was going to happen for me? I wasn't sure. I had hope, but I was nervous. I felt like I was going out on a limb. I didn't know if the limb was going to break or if it was going to hold me up. But look at me now. So really allowing yourself to celebrate those moments when you accomplish these things, when you see yourself succeeding in these spaces, when you see yourself doing great, celebrate that. Celebrate the fact that, okay, not only did I prove that I belong here, I showed myself that I belonged here, and I showed how I made it here. And I will also say, I try not to let having to prove myself be the driving factor that gets me out of my imposter syndrome, because I feel like that can also be very tiring and very taxing on you, trying to prove yourself to other people. But when I say being able to prove to yourself that you belong here is really showing that if you put in the work, you're in this space for a reason. So not putting your pressure on yourself to be like, oh, I have to go extra, extra hard, because we know, again, as Black women, we have to be twice as good and work twice as hard to get half of anything. So not pushing yourself over your limits, but making sure that you are putting in the work that got you into that space to begin with is really what I mean when I say that. And it's not going to happen overnight, right? You're not going to wake up one morning and be like, I'm no longer an imposter, I'm fixed. But those small things that you begin to do are really going to help build your confidence. Or I'll speak for me. Those small things that I did, positive affirmations, really reflecting on the good things that I've done, my accomplishments, allowing myself to celebrate those, surrounding myself with a good support system, and then having people that I can reach out to, people that I study, has not only helped me with imposter syndrome and helped me occupy spaces as 100% myself, but they've also just helped me overall become more confident in myself as a person, in my work ethic. And I don't just mean 9 to 5 going to a job work. I mean anything that I do, anything that I create, anything that I produce. Like, it has built my confidence in all of those areas because I am constantly feeding positivity into myself. And that is something that I have grown to appreciate, and something that I am growing to love, and something that I want to make sure that I continue to do, because it allows me to feel like my possibilities are endless. I really do feel like I can do and accomplish anything that I want to accomplish as long as I understand and I am willing to put in the work. I know that I can do it. Like, there is nothing that I am too afraid to try. And if I feel like I am too afraid to try, then maybe that is just not the thing that I need to be doing. So I trust my instincts. If I feel good about something, if I feel like there is an avenue I can take, an opportunity for me, I'm going to try it. I'm going to take it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But if it does, it can be great. And if I see something and I'm like, I don't know if that's for me. I don't know if I should do that. I also listen to that. I lean into that, and I trust it and I don't choose it, because everything is not going to be for me, but I don't want to limit myself because I don't feel like I belong in a space. And with that, I really just want to say, girl, listen, okay? It's going to be tough out here sometimes. It really is. There are going to be some times where you end up in a place or in a position and it's like, how did I get here? Who let me do this? And you're just going to have to talk to yourself and coach yourself and really give yourself those positive affirmations and understand that someone saw something in you and believed that you should occupy this space. Now it is up to you to find that same thing, hone in on it, and show that you belong in that space. And show it to yourself. Show yourself that you really are that great and you're that good. Again, thank you for being here with me today. I hope you enjoyed listening to today's episode. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. And I will catch you all on the next episode.